Frank J. Avella here with Awards Daily. The incredibly gifted award-winning actor, director, producer Kyra Sedgwick is currently starring in the Laura Winters play All of Me off-Broadway, as well as in Daniel Robbins' hilarious new film, Bad Shabbos, which will world premiere this week at the Tribeca Film Festival. It is such a pleasure to welcome you. Hi, Kyra.
Thank you. So glad to be here. Thanks.
Kyra, you have two amazing projects. They're two captivating performances. So both on stage in All of Me and in Bad Shabbos, you play two very different but complicated mothers.
Yeah.
The type I'm guessing you're different from. Can you speak a little bit about embodying Connie and Ellen?
Well, it's so much easier to talk about Connie because of course I'm in her right now. She's the character that I play in the play. Connie's from Schenectady, born and raised. She's poor. And she is somebody for whom life has always been a fight. She has these two beautiful daughters, one of whom has been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. And she had this dream of riding this wave of stardom because her daughter was a singer, a jazz singer, before she was diagnosed at 16 with MD, and they would go to gigs all around the tri-state area and play. And I think that she really lived in this sort of dream fantasy. Well, now it's a fantasy, but it wasn't then, that, life was going to be different. And instead, her beautiful daughter got diagnosed with MD, and so things are always a challenge. Things are hard. But the play, just to say that, it is very much a wild and fun ride. I think the thing that the two characters have in common is that they're hilarious, or at least one hopes. Connie's really struggling to make things work in this new family dynamic that she has. And she has another daughter that's going off and getting married, and I think she feels abandoned on some level. But she's trying to figure it out. And Ellen also has, one child that's possibly going to be leaving the nest soon, and it's her eldest, and it's a heartbreaker. And because she's born and raised New York, Upper West Side specifically, and she's very much a practicing Jew, and she is somebody who had hoped probably that her son was going to marry a Jewish girl, and instead he brings home a shiksa, goddess, and it's a little different than what she bargained for. It's a lot lighter, fare, but a lot more fun. But a lot more fun to play, let's say. But I think that, I really fall in love with these mothers, I have to say. I think mothers are warriors, and in both cases, they're warriors. Certainly Connie is having to be a little bit more of a warrior than Ellen, but yeah, they're fun.
It's funny. I kept when I saw All of Me, I know Connie. Like I've known Connie's growing up.
I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something just so relatable. And the funny thing is, Ellen, very similarly, I mean, I'm the son of an Italian mother. I can relate to a mother not wanting nobody's good enough for my son.
Right, exactly. No one is good enough. And I can relate to that too, by the way. I mean, I happen to really like my kids' significant others, but jury's still out, it could change at any moment.
I I love it. Well, I want to talk more about Bad Shabbos. Can you tell me about how the project came to you and wanting to be a part of it?
Yeah, it came to me just from my agent, and I knew Adam Mitchell just because my daughter went to school with him. So he went to school with him. I can't remember which school, if it was high school or elementary. Oh, it must have been high school. It must have been Riverdale. Anyway, and I thought, I mean, first of all, they got the script to me and I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I thought it was so funny and so well written, and sort of has this like very, it's like a 1940s comedy to me a little bit, like with the banter, the back and forth, and it's very quick paced and it's kind of zany and like, it's a lot of physical comedy, and things happen that it feels like a Billy Wilder movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
to me. And I was like, geez, I can't believe this kid wrote this, and then and I also so I met with Daniel, and I loved him. I thought he was great. I thought he was, very like a real mensch, super sweet. And but I really liked the part. I mean, that's the thing. It's like if I fall in love with the part, like I'm in, and it seemed like a great group. And I can't remember if Cliff was originally attached. I think he might have been. And I just thought, God, that's a brilliant idea. And, I figured because he's so good in the drama space that he probably good at comedy too. And he's stunning in comedy. I mean, like, probably he's going to blow everyone's mind in this character, because I don't know that people know that, he can do this kind of like, I don't know, just it's it's got a stylized quality, that this comedy. And you either hear it or you don't hear it, right?
Yeah.
And I heard it when I read it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So and also ultimately that, like, it's it's funny, it's got a little sad, and then it's like hopeful, and but mostly funny, but like it's also got this sense of like family's important,
Yeah.
we're all like, family, you can't live with them, you can't live without them, but like at the end of the day, you got to hammer it out, and it's kind of great. I mean, they deal with this shocking and unexpected thing, and they come together, it helps them to come together. And I love that. When I really think about my character, when I really think about, there's like very loud, you can't hear it, but it's like there's like drums out there.
Oh,
But when I think about my career as a whole, so much of what I've done as an actor, as a producer, and as a director specifically is around family dynamics. They fascinate me. I'm endlessly, endlessly, voraciously excited about telling family stories, because we all have some, and we all can relate to some version of a family. And all of me is very much that. I mean, I can't believe the response we've gotten. I mean, cross-culturally, cross-generationally, like 15-year-olds are coming to that play and
mm.
going insane for it. And then, Latin people are coming to the play, Caucasian people are coming to the play, Black people come, and it's like shocking. It's like, I don't know, it's a very accessible piece. And I'm hoping that Bad Shabbos, even though it's very like, it's very much about the around this Jewish tradition of Shabbat dinner, that it'll be very relatable for all cultures,
I think it is. I do. And I think specificity always denotes universality when it's done well.
Isn't that funny how that is? It's such an oxymoron, but it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And and your characters in both, I keep going back to both because you get to play these really, really interesting arcs where these women do experience the change.
Yeah, oh, totally. Oh my God. I'm not interested in someone who's not changing on screen or in the play. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to play one note. If I'm going to do like a tiny little pop and it's in something, fine, great. You don't need to give me an arc. But if I'm going to do a play, which is, we know, is very heavy lifting, it's 7 shows a week. I mean, you get one day off a week. It's amazing. Those are the real heroes, theater actors, and musical actors. Forget it. That's a whole nother animal. Um, but yeah, I really want to tell a story of, I guess I want to promote the ability for humans to change in my art, because it feels like an important quality to manifest as a human, you
Mm,
know, we should be trying to get better, you know, as humans. And I really, so I'm excited about playing roles that start in one place, end in one place. They don't have to be completely different, like you know, unbelievably different so that you won't even buy it. But, you know, learning something along the way. At the end of the play, Connie's like, I get it. I can't touch you unless I can ask you. I get it. You can move out and you can move out. And I'm going to have to figure it out. And whereas in the beginning of the play, she's like, you absolutely cannot do anything. And you will not leave me. I'll touch you whenever I feel like, you know, all the things. So, and Ellen the same way, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And, with all of me, well, you haven't done a play it's been 22 years since The Exonerated. One of the great things about all of me is these two physically disabled people come together, but there are also people in the play who are disabled in different ways.
Totally. That's what I thought when I first read the play. I was like, oh, they're all disabled, all of us. And like that's a bigger conversation. We are all this, everyone's got their stuff. Whether you're on your phone too much, whether you shop too much, whether you eat too much, whether you drink too much, whether you're like, anyway. So that's a whole other conversation. But totally, I love that concept. And I think that's very much what Laura, the playwright, was trying to say, is that yeah, we're all figuring it out. We're all struggling. Sometimes people's disabilities are more obvious from the outside.
I give you a lot of credit because I can tell it's important for you to tell stories that are different, diverse stories, these stories that we need in all mediums.
Yeah, yeah, totally. No, I want to tell stories that feel important on some level, and you know, also entertaining as hell. Like you have to entertain people. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things you do with Bad Shabbos. I mean, that ensemble, were they as much fun working with as it seems?
They were great. I mean, what I will say is that comedy's hard, you know what
Mm.
I mean, as we know. And so, and we were in one apartment for we had a very short schedule. And you know, there were a lot of lines that needed to be, you know, quick and sharp, and things needed to happen in a certain way to like hear the music of it. So there were times when it was really hard, but everyone really liked each other a lot. And also we literally had no dressing rooms. We were downstairs like stuffed together like sardines in a room. So we better have liked each other. Otherwise there would have been blood.
It's funny. Your production company, Big Swing, produced the indie queer gem, Aristotle and Dante. Love
Yes.
that film.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Uh, Such a great film. I want to go back a little because I have to ask you. I spoke with Oliver Stone last year, and Born on the Fourth was your first major, certainly your first big studio film. Uh,
Definitely.
Looking back, working with Stone and Cruise, what do you glean today from all of it?
You know, I'm so grateful that I knew in the moment that it felt important and that I wasn't going to take it for granted that I was with one of the great filmmakers of all time. I mean, this is after he had done Platoon and you tell me, what was the other one he did that was
Salvador.
so, and yeah, and I mean, he just had an air of like import and gravitas to him. And and I really enjoyed working with him. I know people had, you know, said he's complicated, but like I had two fathers who were complicated, so you can't scare me. Um, and you know, Tom was out to really, he was out to prove a point, which was that he could be a great dramatic actor. And so he was very, very committed, as he always is. I mean, yeah, you know, he's a committed guy. I mean, that's for sure. So it was great. And it felt like an important piece, you know, because of what it was about. And Ron Kovic was on the set all the time. And, you know, and we had a great, oh God, who was the DP? Robert, no, it wasn't Robert Elswith. It was someone, anyway, I'm not.
Robertson? Was it Robertson?
Yes. And he was incredible. I mean, it felt like, oh, we're making something really important. This feels like a very important thing to say about this time, about the war, about what happens after the war, about the naivete and the about who we were before and who we were after, right? Like that moment, that moment where he dances, the two of us dance to Moon River right before he gets deployed, and then he comes back like half of what he was before physically and emotionally as well. And she's like completely on the other side of it, an anti-war activist. And I mean, it was like, it felt like we were telling a quintessential American story that needed to be told. And he was the person to do it.
And that film is as
They were
timely.
they were the people to do it.
They,
Both
yes.
Tom and Oliver were the people to do it.
And the film is as timely today as it was when it was released.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I knew I was a lucky girl. I was a lucky girl when I got that part.
Yeah, but you also killed in the part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you did.
Well, of course I did. That goes without saying. Yeah, but I was like, when I got it, I was like, oh, this is a game changer. This feels like a game changer.
Speaking of killing in the part, two of my favorite Kyra Sedgwick films, Something to Talk About
Yeah.
and Miss Rose White.
Oh,
There's
thanks.
two incredible performances that you gave early in your career. I mean, you're doing amazing work now, but I wanted to mention that because I love those films.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. I read that script. It was called Grace Under Pressure at the time, Something to Talk About. And Julia was attached. And, it had been the time when, I started working professionally. We're this pretty close to the same age, if not the same age. But I started working professionally a lot earlier than she did. And so I was going to auditions and people were like, people tell you look like Julia Roberts. I'm like, excuse me? I'm sorry, what? I'm I don't, you're telling me about some up and comer actor that looks exactly like me. Like it was a thing. And I was like kind of startled by it because it happened all the time. Because I didn't know she hadn't come out in anything yet. And or I guess I hadn't seen Mystic Pizza or something. I don't really remember how it all went down, but I remember going like, who is this person? Who is this person? And so when that part came along, I thought, well, this is my time to cash in on looking like her. And it was just such a stunning role. I mean, on the page, it was like, this is the greatest part ever. Hilarious, sexy, irreverent, had all the best lines in the show, got to, knee Dennis Quaid in the balls. I mean, what could be better than that? And I remember going in and I auditioned for it, and then I had to audition again, and then I was like waiting and waiting and waiting, and it was at a really low point in my career, man. I had not been working for like 2 years. It was a very painful time. And then I get a call and a phone rings and Kevin goes, Julia's on the call. And I thought, Julia, who is that, someone who works with my mother? And he goes, and so I picked up the phone, I went, Julia, and she goes, welcome aboard. And I was like, what? It's Julia Roberts. Great time working together. His
Wow.
face looked confused. Did you see that? Did you get everything?
Yeah, that you froze on me, and I heard a little of the Julia conversation. If you could just quick repeat it, that would be great.
But so which part? Where did you lose me?
Where Julia called and she
Yeah,
said,
so it had been a really rough time in my career, which I think is always important to talk about. Like sometimes like years would go by and I would not work. So it was probably like 2 years and I hadn't worked. And so I auditioned for this role and I waited and I waited, and finally a phone rang and Kevin said, Julia's on the call. And I thought it was a different Julie. And I was like, hey, Jules. And she goes, hey, oh my God, this is a great moment. And I was very happy. Did I unstable again?
you did. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but it's okay. I only have one more question left because they're
Okay.
giving me the hook.
Okay.
I guess what
Gotta love
role do you hold closest to your heart? And I'm going to couple that with, tell me about working with Kevin on your next project.
it. Well, it was great to work with Kev. It always is. I love directing him specifically because I think I get the best performances out of him. But what was the number one? Oh God, I mean, I think you talked about two of my favorites And I do think that Born on the 4th of July, because it was just such a seminal moment for me in my career, really will be something that I hold dear. And something to talk about is like, it was so funny. She was so brilliant. I barely had to even act. It was so good, but I loved doing the closer for all those years. It felt so good to, to show up and like year after year after year and, and bring it, and then leave when the time was right. It was great to be able to dive so deep into a character like that. But I fall in love with all of the ones, most of the characters I do, I fall in love with them. That's why I do them.
I love it. And I just shout out to you for the Summer I Turned Pretty. I think you're fantastic in it. And I don't wait 22 years to come back to New York, okay?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking the time, Kyra.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.